In today's video, we will cover tools of the trade, safety, video head cleaning, common mechanical problems, other mechanical problems and lubrication, electrical problems, and camcorder cleaning.
These are some of the tools that you will use in repairing approximately 80% of most VCRs that you encounter. Here we have a magnifying glass that you will use sometimes in seeing closer up, examining some of your components. We have a coffee filter that will be used in cleaning the actual video head. We have a roll of black tape that we will use in making some tests, a bottle of rubbing alcohol, a tube of grease that we will use in lubricating some of the moving parts. We have also a common ordinary emery board that we will use in making some adjustments. A number 2 Phillips screwdriver, a number 1 Phillips screwdriver, a pair of needle nose pliers, a roll of paper toweling, many different types of Q-tips. We have the long wooden handle ones where you want to get into a far area, and the short common ordinary ones. A common ordinary toothbrush, a nice pair of tweezers for grabbing small components and making some minor changes and retrieving foreign objects. A tube of oil. I also have a can of cleaning solution, which in propellant type. We have a bottle of video head cleaner fluid, common ordinary screwdriver, and then we go into, you may run into cases where you will need a soldering iron, normally at the 20 to 40 watt capacity, a roll of solder wick which you would use in removing solder on some components, and a roll of solder. And then we have up front here a tool kit of varying sizes of Phillips through small little screwdrivers with some Allen wrenches in the middle. Most of these components are very readily available from your normal parts supplier. We also do need a wooden stick like the one I'm using as a pointer. And sometimes you do need to reach in and hold boards up in the air, so that also is needed. It doesn't have to be quite this long, but it is very handy. Also, a very useful tool is this little eyedropper lid. In making some adjustments in a VCR, we need to cover up the transmitting sending unit so we can see what is taking place. That works very handy.
Let's review the safety rules for working on VCR with power on. Never work on a cement floor. Always wear rubber sole shoes. Never work on a metal table or anything conductive. Never wear jewelry, and be very careful not to use conductive tools, and be careful you do not touch any bare wires or terminals. And also pick up a book at your local library about working with electricity.
we now have the monitor hooked up to the VCR, and I'm going to check channel selection to make certain the tuner function is working and coming through to our monitor. And let's zoom over here to the monitor. And you see we have a TV channel coming through, and I'm changing channels here, and we have other stations coming through. We're back to our station here, which is a good indication, meaning that we have the VCR hooked up to the monitor properly. I'm now going to press the play button to see if we have a picture. Everything's running normally and properly. And we have a very bad picture. Turning the tracking control does not help it out at all. And we're going to try something else. We'll try a different tape to make certain that we have a good tape. Because the tape that's in the unit right now, I don't know what quality tape that is. I have a factory tape here that was a factory movie. We're going to run that. I know that is a good tape and should run fine. We'll play that. And our condition has not changed any. We still have a very poor picture. Very, very poor picture. Which means we need to go on and clean the video head. I'm going to stop it and remove the tape. Okay, we are going to proceed with opening this cover up so we can get a better access to our components underneath here. Before we do that, we're going to unplug the machine. We do not want to have power in the machine when you are working on it. So I'm going to unplug it. It is unplugged now. I'm going to remove the two screws that are holding this circuit board in place. You must also remember to kind of look at the screws, because like this one has a fiber washer on it to keep it insulated from touching the surrounding circuitry. The other one does not, which means it is supposed to touch. A lot of times as you're working on VCRs, you'll run into these type of situations with an insulated screw, washer around it, and one not. Steve is with me today, and I want him to make certain he asks me questions as we go along.
I'm sure I'll have plenty.
Okay. I'm going to open this up. Remember that wooden stick I have? Well, we're going to use it now. In this model, I'm going to put it here and here to hold this board up out of the way so we can get at the inner workings here. You want to be careful that you don't push against any of the small components up here and bend them over to cause a short. Same with the other end. Some of these machines, the boards are very heavy, some are pretty light. Some don't even have these boards here. They're exposed just like this.
Ken, does that board have a stop behind it so it doesn't flip all the way back?
No, the wires tend to keep it from going all the way back.
Okay, so you have to be careful with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, this board does have a plastic fiber protector on it because there is a metal bracket way in the back here. Some of the machines do not have a plastic fiber, and if that you run into that, you have to be careful that you don't open it up to touch the metal when you do have the machine plugged in and running. Okay. We are going to clean the video head. I may be doing this a little fast, and we will be showing a little bit further detail on one of my demonstration machines how to do it a little differently. I am going to use this coffee filter. As you can see, it's perfectly clean and white. There are other materials that you can buy. They have little sticks with little material similar to this on them where you can hold up against the head. You do have to be extremely careful when you are cleaning and working near a video head. It is very easy to damage a video head. And the heads are very expensive. They range anywhere from $50 to $200 for this part alone.
Ken, what kind of cleaner are you using there?
This is a video head, tape head cleaning fluid. I do use this a lot, And I also have a propellant, which is a Freon TF base propellant that I use also. Tonight I'm going to use this. You can purchase a lot of these supplies, for example, like at Radio Shack or at other electronic parts supply houses. I am tipping the bottle over to saturate this paper material and get it very wet. You want to be careful not to drip it on the plastic material though, because that will do damage. I am holding my finger up against the video head assembly and I am turning very slowly. It's really hard to see. I'm going to change my angle here so you can see it a little differently. Again, I'm going to be doing this again with a different unit. You want to be extremely careful and to go somewhat slow. Now, I don't know if you can see it or not.
That's probably too close.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, it's quite dirty.
See the streaks there? Now, if I make it wetter, it might show up a lot more. Well, it doesn't. It evaporated pretty fast. But there are some dirt trails here which were on the video head. And usually we do it 2 or 3 times and then check the picture portion of the unit out again to make certain that it is working fine now.
Now that will not scratch the head, is that correct?
No, it will not. That is one reason why I don't particularly like the video head cleaning tapes. They can scratch a head and do severe wear. It's hard to see the marks there. I have another doily that I will show you which has some extreme marks on it. Let me show you this one. Can you see the black marks
Definitely.
there? Yeah. That came off of a video head assembly just like this. And this is normal tape oxide wear. A lot of times your poorer grade tapes will leave a lot of oxide like that on a machine. Okay. Now I'm going to put this unit aside for now and we're going to get out the demonstration unit to show you be a little easier to get at. We can tip it over and work with it. Steve, I have my demonstration unit here, and I have it removed from a VCR so we can see all of the points that we want to see and all the parts that we have. You do not take a unit out like this when you're working on a unit because it's something that you just don't do because it's too many interconnecting wires that are involved, and there's some pretty delicate adjustments that will be disturbed when you remove them.
Can you still get to all these components with it in?
Yes, you can. It is more difficult because you're dealing with having to go underneath and around the carriage assembly and some of the boards.
I see.
And the reason why I have this out is so we can show everyone basically what we're doing on a more easier technique. We have here an idler wheel assembly, and this is a drive wheel, and as you can see it pivots back and forth. And it goes up, and that's what runs these wheels. That's what turns the spools. There's a supply spool, and this is a take-up spool. Okay. We have, very obviously here, in the center of the machine, this is the video drum assembly. When a machine is running a tape, this head assembly is spinning at 1800 RPMs per minute. It's going very fast. That's why you have to be extremely careful when you have a machine running that you don't put anything up against your, because you can damage the head very fast, very quickly. It's going so very fast. We have this post assembly here. There's a roller assembly here. We have what is known as a full erase head here. On this side of the machine we have what is known as your audio control head assembly. We also have another roller assembly here. We have in the center of the machine, this is an infrared transmitting LED. And the other machine we had a regular conventional light bulb. We have a shaft here, the capstan shaft, and a rubber pinch roller. And then back to the supply side.
What path does the tape run through?
I'm going to move this a little closer here so you guys can see this a little better. The tape starts off from this post. And in this post assembly here, I'm going to move the mechanism. When the tape drops down, the tape is on the outside of these two posts here. I'm going to get my demonstration tape here and put it on the machine, the mechanism. Now I'm going to run the gears forward. See the post coming around the head?
What are you actuating there with your fingers?
I'm actually am moving the gear train assembly, which is.
Can you show that on the other side? Just turn that around.
Yeah, we could do it. There's not much to see on the other side because it's all buried in the machine.
Oh, I can. This gear here you're turning.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm turning this gear here.
Now, how do you do that with that in the VCR?
You can't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have this one modified so I can do it for demonstration purposes. There's a motor train, gear train assembly down in here. It reduces the gear and turning, and I have an intermediate gear removed here so I can spin the gears.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot do it by the
Okay.
machine itself. But now that we had the backside shown, I wanted to show, this is the capstan assembly here, the capstan motor and a drive belt, then the bottom of the idler wheel and another drive belt. These belts can go bad and cause different problems. And occasionally they do need to be cleaned also. One of your symptoms would be an unsmooth sound. The sound will be wobbly or draggy. Check these belts. If they're too loose or if they've got some oil on them or grease on them, you need to clean them off. You can use alcohol for doing that. Isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol, that works very fine in cleaning this rubber surfaces.
Bottom of the chassis accessible to clean?
In most units it is. On some units there is a circuit board sitting over this and you have to take it totally apart to get at.
Wow.
And sometimes it is very difficult. I also know of some machines that are being made now where you cannot get at it without removing the deck assembly. It is a very severe problem. I'm going to continue moving, but the posts are moved all the way forward here. And our tape comes out of this cartridge, goes around this roller here, wraps around the head, comes around this post, goes by the audio control head, another post here, and you notice the pinch roller is almost fully tight against the capstan shaft. That's what keeps the tape running at constant speeds through the machine. I'm going to back this assembly off, and I'm going to remove the tape slack and remove this test cartridge out of the way so we can get back at these posts. A lot of times on a VCR when you're cleaning it, these little posts here pick up a lot of oxide and tape residue. And the tape cleaning cartridges that are around, they don't do anything for these posts. They just roll over them. They don't actually clean them. Where you can take your Q-tips like this, or a wooden handle one that's longer, because if you're dealing inside a machine, sometimes you can't get at them and you need to reach in from a very far distance. You dip these in alcohol so that they're wet. You don't want them sort of dripping wet. Then you want to come and you want to wipe these off and get them nice and clean, back to the shiny metal that they are. The same thing applies for the capstan shaft, the rubber drive wheel.
Now this is after you've cleaned the video head? the video heads to first, or does it matter?
It does not make any difference.
Okay. As long as you get them all.
Yes, you want to clean this and all of these roller points. You want to clean this and this one.
Now, are you checking for wear on the rollers as you're doing this, or does that come later?
Normally, there's no wear that appears on these.
Those, I see.
Yeah. These white, it's a white material. I don't know if you can quite see it. Now you can. There's a white material here, and on this one, they actually move. They're actually little nylon rollers that roll. Occasionally, you will find a unit where these rollers are stuck on. And when they stick, the tape does not run through the mechanism smoothly and will cause a problem in picture quality and in sound quality.
I see.
What you do to correct that is you take some alcohol and get it real good and wet. Try to get it loosened up with that. You can then take your aerosol degreaser or component cleaner, and you can give it a squirt. Just give it a little squirt on there.
That'll free it up usually.
And that will, very often will free it up. Sometimes you have to work it in a little bit, and so on and so forth. If it does not free it up, and if that is what's causing the problems, you then would have to replace this post. That is easily done, but the adjustment for getting this line back up is very difficult. And if you do not have enough experience at aligning, this is called the P3 post, and this is called the P2 post, getting those lined up, you can be in for a major catastrophe. It does take a special alignment tool that fits in this. The actual alignment is within 1 micron of adjustment. So if you don't have that adjusted real accurately, you can have no picture playback or record at all. So that's why in a future tape we will cover adjusting this. But right now it's a little bit above the norm for normal cleaning.
Okay.
Okay, we have the video drum here again. As you can see, it's spinning freely. Sometimes you'll run into a machine where this will not spin freely. Okay, there can be a couple of reasons for that. There is a ground strap here, which just lightly touches the center. Okay. Sometimes I've seen where kids have gotten into a machine and they have bent this over, and it's actually bent sideways and it's touching the wires that are here, causing it to drag. So you have to be careful, adjust it, and it goes right back in the center shaft. That grounds off the static electricity that can generate from the moving head assembly.
So that has to be touching at all times, lightly.
Yes,
Okay.
it has to be touching. Okay. Now, what I was saying before, you have to be very careful with the video head. I have a video head in my hand here that I have removed from a machine, and it has been broken. As you can see, the majority of it is just an aluminum cylinder. It's very finely polished aluminum. It's not very heavy. And I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see the actual back side. And you'll see on the back side that we have, this is a two-headed unit.
Let's see, can you bring that closer?
Yes, I can. How's that?
That's good.
We have an active element here and an active element here. A four-headed VCR could have two heads here and two heads here. That is what we're seeing in the newer machines being built today. In the older ones, there were actually one here, and one across from here, and one here. On a four-headed machine, on the playback mode, they are only using two at a time. When you're doing a trick function, which is a pause still, or a cue or review, they then turn all four on to gather more information off of the tape path to fill in the missing voids.
Now, how about the three-head VCRs?
The three-head does the same thing. A lot of three-head machines you'll see with two heads on one side and one head here. And what they're actually doing is in a trick mode, which would be your pause still again, they're turning on that third head to gather more information off the tape to fill in the missing spaces. Now, I don't know if we can get a close enough angle, but this head has been physically broken. The one on this side here.
Put it closer.
Let's see if we can get closer to there and see this.
Can you see where it's busted?
It's actually chipped off right in this area here.
Put it even closer.
Let's get closer. I don't think we can get... It's pretty difficult to see.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to turn it over to the good side and see if we can see a difference there.
Show me that chip side again.
Okay, the chip side is this side.
And where do you see it chipped?
It is chipped. You can take your fingernail or your finger, you can actually feel it. It is chipped.
Okay.
Now, one reason that this could have been chipped is if a person went up and down this way on the head.
What will that do to your picture?
It will, remember the picture that we had on the VCR
Yes.
before we started cleaning this? How it was very snowy. There was a picture there, but very snowy. That's what this one did. Because one side was good and one side was bad. It was a little bit of a picture, but very snowy and raspy.
And the cleaning didn't do it, so then you suspected
Yes.
deeper
Well,
problems.
As you get used to cleaning a machine, as you have the paper wrapped around your finger, you can actually feel, it doesn't feel right. It drags and it tends to, it's pulling. Where on this side, it flows over very smoothly. Again, you have to be careful. If you go around a cylinder assembly, most of the weight is on the metal itself, and you just kind of glide over the head element. Excuse me. Where on this side, as you glide over it, you can feel it is not smooth. It's actually grabbing it.
I see.
It's like a burr on a piece of metal
You could actually feel it even through the
through the paper. Yeah.
filter there.
Yes. That's why when I'm cleaning a head on a machine, what I like to do is, as you can see, the part that spins and there's a part that's fixed. Let me turn it a different angle here so you can kind of see it a little differently. You see the part that spins and the part that's fixed. Okay. I like to put my finger where the majority of it is on the fixed part, so that as I spin it, I don't put any pressure on the head assembly, on the active element of the head. I put my finger, I lay it right there, lengthwise across.
You put it on the. Are you putting your pressure on the back one?
If I put any pressure at all, it's on the back one.
Okay.
So you're just lightly touching the assembly, and you turn it very slowly.
Now what does that do?
That's cleaning. That's actually cleaning the head.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now sometimes what will happen in the machine is there are little air grooves here. Can you see those air grooves there?
Yeah.
Those are actual little air grooves. Sometimes you can get a bad tape, or you can make a mistake. You can have a customer that has went out to a movie store and rented a tape, and if you're living in an area of the country where it gets very cold, and has put a cold tape into a warm machine. That's what's happened to this tape here. It actually has broken the tape. See, it's actually broken. Okay. And that happened because the tape was too cold, and it was a temperature of approximately 30 degrees outside, maybe 24. But they had the tape in their car for about an hour. They went shopping. They came home, and they put the tape into the machine, and the tape started to warm up very rapidly because the house is now 70 degrees. And because the tape had moisture on it, it stuck to the head assembly and tore it. And it took approximately 5 seconds to do this much damage.
Did it do any damage to the VCR?
It plugged the video head, but did not do any permanent damage. They were very lucky.
When you say plugged, what does that mean?
Okay, the machine that we showed before where the picture was very noisy, okay, that's what I refer to as a plugged video head. the active element on the drum assembly became clogged, and so it could not pick the information off of the tape.
So a cleaning would remedy the
Yes.
problem.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Again, you have to be very, very careful on the video head assembly. If you pull up and down across that head element, you can actually break that element. The new machines that are out today, the 4 head and the 3 heads and your hi-fi heads, they are very, very, very thin wafers, and it will not take much pressure to break them. Okay.
And what do those cost?
A head assembly will cost anywhere from $50 to $200.
And that's dealer cost?
Yes.
Oh, that is dealer cost.
Yes.
So if that breaks, it's probably more advantageous for the customer to get a new VCR, maybe.
It can very well be.
Depending on the VCR.
Depending upon the VCR, yes. And if you're the one that breaks it, is it going to break your bank trying to repair it? Okay. Something else that can happen, these air grooves can get clogged with tape particles. What I try to do sometimes is take a Q-tip and hold it against the drum and turn it, but you cannot get the Q-tip close to the video head, to the active element. What will happen, the element is so small it will actually grab onto the Q-tip and you can break it. So what I then do sometimes is I will take my fingernail and put it in one of the grooves. I'll start from the top of the machine, get it in the groove, turn the head very slowly, but keeping my fingernail in just that groove and actually force the material out.
Do you have to do that to each channel?
Yes, each groove. In this particular machine, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 air grooves. And again, you have to be careful that you do not touch the video head or put pressure on it, because you will break it. Something else that I do if I suspect the video head is bad and broken, I will put my fingernail across the space of the fixed and the solid, and I put hardly any pressure there, and I will move it, the active element, over my finger, and I feel, gee, it's very smooth, goes over very smoothly. There's no problem. I'll move the head around and get to the other head element and do it again. And I'll find there's no damage to this head or the other head. It's very smooth. Now, on a 4-headed machine, there can be a space in between each head. And if you're not careful, you can break that head with your fingernail. Wow. So you only do that when you cannot see real clearly into a machine. The more machines that you work on, or you take your own machine apart and you examine it and touch it and get the feel for it, you have to have a very light finger. You can't be jittery or jumpy. You have to have very steady hands when working around the video head. And it's very easy on this machine because we have it totally apart. You get back into the original machine that we just had out, it can be very hard because you're dealing with mechanical carriages and levers. Circuit boards are hanging over the machine or over the assembly. There are machines that, in order to get at the head assembly, you have to take totally apart. On those machines, you have to be extremely careful, because as you're moving the circuit boards around, they are very thin and you can break them very easily. And circuit boards are not a replacement item. And if they are, they're $200 to $300. They are very expensive. So you have to be very cautious when you're working around these machines. Okay. Something else that I showed earlier in the evening was a toothbrush. Okay. And some of you are probably wondering, what do you do with a toothbrush? Well, let me show you what I do with that. I'm going to lay the machine down on this angle. And so let's see if we can pick this up on the camera angle here. This is our control audio erase head. It's very hard because of the cameras angle and so on. There is a metal lip that goes over part of the head. And because of that, when you're cleaning it with a rag or a doily, it's very hard to get the upper edge of this head clean. That's where I use a toothbrush. We'll come in here and actually brush it back and forth.
Does that have to be a soft bristle brush, or does it matter?
It doesn't make that much difference. I like the softer bristle brushes because they tend to get up in that area better. On some machines, you're working from the front, so you're going like this. You're actually brushing it. You have to be careful that you do not touch up against the video drum assembly. So you do not want a real big brush. You want to get in there. And the reason why this is important is sometimes you'll get a machine where the sound quality is poor. And what's happened is oxide buildup has gotten on the sound portion of the head. The sound portion of this head is on the very upper edge, and it's underneath this metal lip. And it's very hard to get at. With Q-tips and the like, you just have a very hard time getting up there.
Can you use fluid on that head also?
Yes.
Okay.
On this head, the control head and the rollers and the shaft here and the pinch roller and the shafts and rollers over here, you can use ordinary rubbing alcohol. Okay. I a lot of times will clean all of these rollers and the head here with alcohol. I will then take my dry toothbrush and just brush it. Just to get it nice and clean up in this area. I have had many a VCR which the complaint has been poor sound. And doing this has resolved the situation.
But you don't want to use the brush on the video head.
Right. You don't want to use it on the video head. There are different circumstances, but yeah, normally you do not want to. I have had, remember talking about that tape that was cold?
Yes.
I had a VCR one time where the tape oxide peeled off of the tape and fused itself onto the drum assembly. I mean, could turn it, you could see the shiny metal, and it was just black from here to here. And that happened in the extreme cold climate of Minnesota. And
did it come off?
It finally came off. What I had to do was to soak my rag with alcohol and just kind of soak it and rub it and soak it and rub it. Took my fingernail and actually peeled it off. Had to scrape it and peel a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. But again, being extremely careful. You do not want to get on the active element of the head.
Now, Ken, if you don't use your fingernail, is there anything else you could use to get in there, like a toothpick or something?
You probably could. I have used the backside of this long wooden handled Q-tip as a toothpick and gotten onto the head, even in the air groove, and just held it.
Just very lightly.
Yeah, very lightly, and turned it. And you're not doing any damage to this head. You do not want to use any metal objects, because if you put any scratches on here, it will make a flutter in the tape as it runs.
Okay.
So soft wood, you're not going to have any scratches. Even a paper towel will work, or a napkin, or a rag. You just have to be extremely careful you do not get on the active head element. Now, another way, I don't know if you can quite see it, but there's a area here is all metal, and then you get to where the head element is, and you see a little gap there.
Where's the head element?
Okay,
I see the gap.
Yeah, you see it's in this gap. It's hard to see there. Okay, maybe you can get a little closer shot on that. See a little space, tiny space right in there, little darkening space? That is the head gap there. Let's come back to this head, this other head I have, and let's see if we can show you something else that you can tell. On the top side here, we have from the factory, there's guide holes here and here. There's 4 guide holes, and there's one hole right in the center. In the center hole, there is an Allen head screw. Under no circumstances ever touch that Allen head screw.
Okay.
That is set at the factory. Even and I've been doing VCRs for about 10 years now, do not have the expertise to adjust this.
Don't fool with it.
Don't
Okay.
fool with it. Okay, I'm going to turn the head over just to let them see if they can see that gap a little bit. And you really can't see it. It's very hard. Once you have a machine out, you can
Yes, I
see it.
Right here?
Yes, that is it there. And as you're going over a head, that's what you have to be careful of. Because that is what picks the picture off the tape and what puts it on. The rest is just metal. And you can see the air grooves on this one pretty good now where the camera angle is. Okay, we have the VCR hooked back up. I want to just go over a little bit again.
And we plug this in too.
Yeah, we have it. I do have it plugged in right now, and as long as you're in a safe area, you can do this with it plugged in. Where you're not on the cement floor, metal. You do not want to work on a metal table. You want to have an isolated table so you have no conduction of electricity. Again, you don't want to have metal things on your fingers because if you're reaching in here, if this board happens to come down, if you have a ring on, you could short something out, cause damage to the machine or damage to yourself. I have my favorite little toothbrush here. I'm going to brush the head assembly, the control audio head. So I want to get that clean, real good. This particular model machine, if any oxide builds up on here, the tape will not play back properly. It hunts speed. That's one problem you'll find. It won't lock into a speed. It will go up and down. Another part to clean is on the other side over here is the full erase head to make certain that's gotten clean. Sometimes you'll get some stubborn spots on the rollers and the back tension band. You want to just brush it off a little bit. You want to just be careful not to hit up against the head drum assembly with the toothbrush. Because if you happen to hit the active element, you can knock it off. Okay. I'm taking my test tape, which I know it's a factory-made tape. I know it is in excellent condition and it plays fine in all the machines that are around. Push the play button. It's loading up properly. Let's go over to the monitor here. Remember the picture we had before? Where we had a very noisy picture. And now we have a normal running picture. I'm going to take the tracking control and turn it from end to end and observe the picture. As I turn to the right, you see the picture start to tear up and be distorted, which is quite normal. Coming back to the center, it's normal again. And going to the left, there's no change at all. This is a very normal occurrence for a VCR, especially on a factory-made tape. in the SP mode. It'll have very little range, but quite a bit of range. To the left, it had hardly any effect at all in the picture, and to the right, had a severe effect. But the picture should look very normal in the center range, and we have a very good running machine right now. One thing I forgot to mention before when we started out with cleaning the VCR, we had a very bad picture, worse than what we have here. When we were listening to the sound, we had normal sound. That's one clue to tell you that you have a problem with the picture portion of the machine, the video head, picking the picture information up. Okay. Now, if you had trouble with the sound portion, that means you would concentrate your efforts on the audio head. And if you had a problem with when you were making a new recording and it wasn't erasing the old recording, it could be a problem with the erase head being dirty. I don't know if you can see it from the angle, but the video head is spinning very rapidly, so you want to be extremely careful not to touch it. Now you can see a little better, we're a little closer with the camera. The video head is spinning here, running. The tape is wrapped around the video drum assembly, around the rollers, and through the mechanism going onto the take-up spool. Again, yeah, I can hardly overemphasize the fact the video head is running very fast. You don't want anything to fall on top of it. You don't want to touch it with it running, because you can do severe damage to yourself and the machine. I'm going to stop the tape now, and we're going to go on to the next step. You may be wondering why we have all our little toys sitting out here. Well, in our mechanical section that we're in right now, these are some of the objects that I have removed out of different VCRs for different problems. Pencils, pen tops, little darts, little whatevers, chips, little towels. Even Dad's golf tee makes it into the VCR. Kids love VCRs. They have little mailboxes you see here, and they put things in there. A lot of times, we'll have a complaint from a customer. I put the tape into the machine, and as soon as it goes in, maybe it goes halfway down and comes back out. Or it won't even go in very far. It makes strange noises, gears clenching and making sounds like that. Well, what you'll find, you'll look in the machine, and in the below the carriage, you'll find sometimes these little parts, little kids' toys that have fallen in there and dropped in place. I even had a VCR one time that I had serviced and sent home. The customer got it home, turned it on, says, "We turned it on and it ate a tape up right away. What happened?" Because I don't know. Let me see. I opened it up, and on the inside was a Lego block. The kids had Lego blocks in the car, and they were down there playing Lego blocks.
They're building inside the VCR.
Inside the VCR, yes. So he wanted you, that's why observation and inspection of the machine is very, very handy. Listen to what the customer tells you is happening, because a lot of times it's a very simple, straightforward repair. I don't know how many times I've taken pieces of paper out of my machine, caught over a wheel, or stuck underneath a lever, and causing the wheels not to pivot back and forth, but jamming it up. It doesn't even have to be this big. I've had a piece of paper this size cause a severe problem. We're going to go on now to the next check that we should do with the VCR. As we're going through the VCR, you want to be careful that you don't do the wrong thing first. Our next step now is going to take and insert the tape into the unit. Okay, it took the tape fine and normal. Everything sounded right. Let's try to eject the tape to make certain we don't have a problem with the eject mechanism. It sounded very good and normal, and the tape did come out. We're going to insert it again. Now we're going to try, before you push the play button, we're going to try the rewind and fast forward to make certain that the tape does move along. If it does not move along, we will have a severe problem with eating tapes. You'll hear the unit making a noise. I'm going to tip it up so you can get a better look at the top of the wheels. You see the wheels here and here. I'm going to push it forward again. And you see it's not moving, but it's making a noise. Let's try rewind. It's not even moving, it's making the same noise. We have a problem with the drive system. It's not moving the tape. In a case like this, if you were to push the play button, it would unload the tape around the cylinder head, and when you went to stop it, the tape would stay loaded. When you would go to eject, you would have an eaten tape, very severely damaged. And if you have a very expensive tape, it could be very devastating. Let's eject the tape and see if we can see what the problem is. And I'm going to tip the unit forward so you can get a better view of what is in here. You'll see we have a foreign object, a piece of paper. It does not belong in here. It's one of these nice little postum stickers. Apparently somewhere along the line someone had set it on top of a tape and it stuck to the tape and went into the machine and then stuck on the post in there. Let's now try and see if we can have our tape moving. I'm going to push the buttons again, and you can see the wheels are moving forward. Let's go to stop and try rewind. Okay, we have rewind condition. Let's go back to stop, and we'll try the play mode and see if we can get a play mode to complete. We have play mode. Tape moved forward, and you'll notice that we have the machine running, and you'll see the wheel turning slowly. It's taking the tape up, which is a very good sign. Some other very common things that we can see happening with the VCR. I have an example of some different size idler rewind tires and sub-assemblies. Okay. And I have one belt here. These can cause some mechanical problems also. As the rubbers get old, they dry out and they will slip. And a slipping tire can cause a problem. Sometimes you can clean these real good with alcohol. You can use even some sandpaper. We can even use our little emery board that I had showed you before. And I'll show you more on this in a few more minutes. But sometimes the rubbers will get so bad that they do need to be replaced. And you're going to have to remove them and replace them. We're going to problem I have in this machine right now. We're going to show you how to correct it and what to look for. And you need some of these steps in all VCRs and all machines because you'll have the similar circumstances happening. I'm going to move these on the side for right now, and we're going to put the tape into the machine. I'm going to push the fast forward button, and you'll hear the machine running fast forward. And if you could look down here, you would see that the tape is actually moving. But it stopped. I didn't do anything. It's like, well, let's push the rewind and see what happens. It's going, and it stops. And something else that you'll notice has happened on this machine is this light is now flashing, where before it was steadily turned on.
Is that the power light, Ken?
This is the power light. And the reason why this is flashing is the microcomputer chip has told the mechanism or machine, you have a problem, stop. And if you try to push any of the buttons, nothing will happen. If I turn the machine off and back on, we now have a steady light again. And our stop light is on in this machine. Something else to observe, I physically was watching the tape move. It's moving a fair amount. But our number counter here is not moving. Let's see if we can zoom in on this number counter here. And I'm going to push the button again. You'll see it's not moving. It's stationary. Let's try it pushing it again. It's still moving. I pushed the stop button there. Let's hit the 0 buttons. Maybe it's stuck. No, it's not moving. It's just staying there. This is a very good symptom that will happen with many VCRs. You will have to investigate why that is not moving. A lot of machines, when that happens, there's a sensor on that assembly telling the computer the tape is moving, everything is fine. And I'm going to remove the tape and investigate it in the machine. And what actually has happened, I'm going to bring out my demonstration model again, is the belt that goes around this spool and around this little idler here has been removed. It's been pulled off. It could be broken. What I have seen happen in a couple of machines is people had kids, something got dropped in the machine, they took it apart and they removed, by reaching in there, they removed the toy that was in there. But what they didn't realize is they also had pulled the belt off the spool. Now it's not turning the spool, little spool down here, which is telling the computer everything's fine. So I'm going to correct that situation. I'm going to replace it and get things rolling along here again. Okay, I have now installed the belt back on the pulley to the little pulley from that assembly. I'm going to push the fast forward button and we're going to see the numbers moving down here. See the numbers moving? And you'll notice the last time the machine had already stopped and it's running fine now. That's what kids are good for. They're good for putting things in the machines and taking them out and knocking a belt off like that and causing a problem where it would only run for about 10 seconds and go into shutdown. It's a great little fix. Plus, as the machines get older, those belts can break.